لكن تحديت الظروف وخضتها وحدي صبورا مستعينا بالصلاة. كم مرة عصف الأنين بداخلي، كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محنتها، وكم كرهت مصابها.
كان الهجوم هجوم جيش عبد العزيز أو هجوم جيش إخوان من طاع الله، أي من أطاع الله المقصود به عبد العزيز نفسه. كان الهجوم يرتكز على ركيزتين أساسيتين. الأول كان هذا الهجوم يغلف بغلاف الدين، أي أن هؤلاء القوم هم مشركون وأنهم يقطعون أهل نجد عن الحج. الأمر الثاني كان بقوة الحديد والنار وبقوة البطش والقتل الفظيع في أهل الحجاز. في مجزرة الطائف الرهيبة التي قتل فيها عدة من الآلاف، وفعلوا فيها كما ذكر ذلك بالنص أحمد عبد الغفور عطار صاحب كتاب صقر الجزيرة، وهو المؤرخ الذي يذكر عبد العزيز بلهجة المادح، يذكر عبد العزيز بلهجة المثني عليه والمعظم المقدس لعبد العزيز. ذكر تفاصيل مجزرة الطائف بشكل لا يخطر على بال، وذكر ما الذي فعل الإخوان من هؤلاء البدو المتوحشين. طبعا ظللهم عبد العزيز باسم الدين.
الله ثم عبد العزيز ابن عبد الرحمن
كتائب الإخوان تنفذ غارات مكثفة في مناطق شريفية. الهجوم الكبير كان في الطائف عاصمة الحجاز الصيفية، تحديدا في 3 أيلول سبتمبر 1924، حيث تحرك جيش الإخوان صوب الطائف بقيادة المتعصب سلطان بن بجاد. لم تتمكن الطائف من الصمود إطلاقا، وقتل المئات من الناس، حتى أن صحفا بريطانية تحدثت عن قطع لحناجر الأطفال والنساء، وأن العشرات قد لجأوا إلى جامع ابن عباس لكنهم قتلوا جميعا داخل المسجد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. ما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I'd like to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept everyone's fast and ibadat and adhkar and dua throughout the holy month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a continuation for the believers so that they continue on this noble path of worshipping Him alone, increasing in our worship, increasing in our Quran recitation and all the good deeds, all the amil salihat. Ameen. Now, part 5 of who are the true followers of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. And we'll be responding to a new neo-Najdi on the block, and again this cognitive dissonance, and I just find it honestly surprising that they still have no sincerity, even with all the information that we've cascaded. And as I said before, we've got Takfeeri tendencies part 4. The Takfeeri problem that we are seeing manifested and the phenomenon that we are experiencing in our time, it's not by accident. It doesn't just sprung out of nowhere. There's a root cause to this phenomenon. You can hear the birds chirping out, subhanAllah. There's a root cause to this phenomenon, and that is solely thanks, and again I'm not saying thanks as I'm appreciative, it's due to the principles and the methodology of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. As you can see on screen, we've got the book Khamsoon Aman fi Jazirat al-Arab, 50 years in the Arabian Peninsula, written by Hafiz Wahab. Hafiz Wahab was a Saudi ambassador. Okay, so he was one of the early ambassadors of the third Saudi state. Okay, and here's the individual in question. So if anyone wondered what he looked like, here he is. Okay, we've got his picture on screen. So as you can see on screen, he mentions the opening of a Tai'F and a Hijaz, meaning from the Hashemiyah. When you think Fath, you're thinking they've opened up new lands to Islam. No, they're talking about Fath, meaning the lands that they opened when they conquered the Hashemi dynasty, meaning the kingdom of the Hashemiyah at that particular time. So he mentioned that the Sultan of Najd, okay, seized or took up the opportunity, okay, meaning Ibn Saud, the chance to visit the heads of the tribes in Eid al-Adha in the year 1342. Okay, so he took the opportunity to visit these heads of the tribes, especially the Utaybi tribe, and we got a part 6 to record as well. So this Utaybi tribe is relevant to the next video because it connects to this as well. Anyway, really the honorable people, etc. Now, he was asking for preparations, okay, to conquer Tai'F. So he basically met those Ash'ari, those particular tribes, to seek support, to prepare to raid into Tai'F. And he mentions that perhaps the king, meaning Hussein, will return to, insight as such. And now what I want you to do is pay attention with the arrows over. He says, وَلَكِنِ الْإِخْوَانِ دَخَلُوا الطَّائِفِ. But the Al-Ikhwan, the ISIS of the time, entered into Tai'F and Mecca as conquerors. It started, when they entered into Tai'F, started to sort of apply the sword on the necks of a lot of the innocent people. Okay? They started applying the sword. They started killing people indiscriminately. Okay? These are the ISIS of the time. Okay? So when you wonder, when you see ISIS, when you see all of these extremist groups, it's upon the Najdi manhaj, the original principles of the Da'wat al-Najdiyah, because they believe everyone was kuffar because of certain attributes that they accuse others of, and that render their blood halal. So as I said before, don't be surprised. And these neo-Najdis are following a plastic diluted, fake, bogus version. But like I said, if they want to be content with that, that's their issue. Then he mentions they started plundering a lot of the wealth of the people, started sort of robbing people. And this brought about a lot of the Ashraf, meaning the honorable people, started turning against the Sultan of Najd. What transpired in Tai'F, they did against the Hujjaj of Tanuma. Prior to that, they started slaughtering the Arabian tribe. They started slaughtering people in mosques. As we know, when they killed Uthman ibn Mu'ambar, they killed him in a mosque because he apparently allied and did muwalat with those who were against Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, as if they manifested the deen. So if they're against us, they're against Islam and they're murtadun. Now, we're going to go into another video about this chain takfir, that how delicate it is, how the classical ulama viewed this. Meaning, yes, in principle, man lam yukaffir al-kafir for a kafir, there's a principle, and we need to know who it's applied to, you see. But nevertheless, and that means whoever doesn't make takfir on the kafir is a kafir. We need to know the principle in its generality, who it applies to. But to go against you, meaning the Najdiyah, if they go against us, and we obviously are the flag bearers of Tawheed, that means they're against Islam and they're murtadun, they don't manifest the deen. Anyway, so you see, the slaughtered people indiscriminately in Tai'F. Now, where are we finding this phenomenon today? Which manhaj are these bandits, Al-Ikhwan, the ISIS at the time, following? Whose manhaj are they following? Whose methodology are they following? Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab, the early Da'wat al-Najdiyah. And when I'm showing you one example, I've done 5 parts. This is the 5th part. I could go into 10 if I wanted to show you that the correlation between extremism and radicalism points towards Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab and the early Da'wat al-Najdiyah. Now, what I'm going to do is, as I've shown, this is from Hafiz Wahab, who was an ambassador, a Saudi ambassador. It's their history. It's from the primary source. It's not me using Western academics. But what I'm going to do now is, because there's one individual who was fond of using Western academics, what we're going to do is just back it up. So I'm not using this as my primary source. I've just used Khamsuna Aman fi Jazirat al-Arab. That's primary source right there. This is the early history of the third Saudi state. Let's back this up even further to show you what they did. Okay. And I'm going to educate one of these neo-Najis. Now, in my hand, I've got State, Society and Economy in Saudi Arabia, edited by Tim Niblock. And this is the Center of Arab Gulf Studies, University of Exeter. Now, the problem here is I don't have the PDF for this. Okay, so I'm going to read it out. I'm going to give you the page number. You're more than welcome to check it. Okay, I've got more books here as well. Now, this book was written, okay, just so that people know, and I'll put it up as well. As you can see, I don't know how much I can zoom in 1982, right there. So if anyone can see, I can't zoom in because obviously I'm on my own, so no one can zoom in for me. 1982. Now, if we go to, okay, page 88, okay, page 88, here it is, right there, okay. Go to page 88, and it mentions the urgent quest for international recognition was complicated by the Ikhwan raids on Kuwait by Ikhwan movement in the Mahmal incident of 1926. So that's another incident, so don't worry about it, we'll get to that as well. and by some Ikhwan declaring a jihad against Iraq in 1929. Now there's a problem there because the British had a mandate in Iraq. So Abdul Aziz, who was in bed with the Brits, obviously it goes against their interest, and Abdul Aziz can't go against his masters. So there's a problem there. If the Ikhwan are declaring jihad against Iraq and they are going as Fatihin, they're going as conquerors, then Abdul Aziz, must be thinking, hold on here, this is not going to go according to plan. And he did something, and we'll get to it later on in the video. And it further continues, domestic security was endangered by resentment at the civilian massacre which the Ikhwan forces inflicted on Tai'F after its capture in 1924. Okay, so you see here we got Tim Nimlock, okay, in his book written in 1982 about the state, society and economy in Saudi Arabia, and this is the Center of Arab Gulf Studies, the University of Exeter. So we're talking academics here. We're talking learned academics. We're not talking about these neo-Najdi boxheads, okay? We're learned academics, and we already proved in 50 عاما في جزيرة العرب by Hafiz Wahab that he confirmed it as well. Now, what happened? Okay, so here you go. Here's a book here, okay? So there's one book at the way, okay? No, sorry, I need to read more as well, sorry. So if I go to 42, I've just read it out. 42, page 42 and 43, okay? 42 and 43. It mentions about Al-Ikhwan. So here you go. If you can see Al-Ikhwan, there's a whole chapter. It starts here. That was page 88. So it starts up in 42 and 43. So here you go. There you go. So 42 and 43, just in case you think I'm lying. Imagine the Ikhwan, okay, the ISIS of the time. As has already been mentioned, the Ikhwan had played the central role in the military campaign against King Hussein, as I mentioned before. So the Sufi Ash'ari King Hussein, the Ikhwan were like the fighting force that basically helped Abdul Aziz capture what we call today Saudi Arabia, Jaziratul Arab. But he was the Sultan of Najd. King Hussein was the king of Hijaz, you see, and he claimed to be the Khalif after betraying the Khilafah. I honestly say, absolutely, if you read it, it's absolutely diabolical. The Ikhwan had almost killed Abdullah bin Hussein. Abdullah bin Hussein was the son of the Sharif of Mecca, who took basically over after his father passed away. In 1929, in Turaba, had stormed Ha'il, and after a few divisionary raids on Iraq, had conquered the main towns of the Hijaz in 1924/5, what they did in Tai'F and in other areas, and Mecca as well. By the end of the 1920s, however, this powerful fighting vehicle was virtually uncontrollable. So by that time, by the end of the 1920s, because they started, the Saudi state was founded in 1932. This fighting force was largely responsible, taking over all of the land, which is known as Saudi Arabia today, was formerly known as Jaziratul Arab, as it was historically. They were uncontrollable now. This Takfeeri mindset falling on from the Da'watul Najdiyah, you see? So that's what I'm saying, the root, the cause, the springboard of extremism and radicalism goes back to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahab and his bandits. Listen to this is very important. The arguments which Abdul Aziz had used to encourage the Ikhwan to conquer the Hijaz can now be turned against him with perfect logic. If a jihad against the Hijaz was lawful, why not a jihad against Iraq? Fortunately for the survival of his kingdom, Britain's interest in this matter coincided with Abdul Aziz's own. So let me just stop there. I'm just going to explain something. So you see how treacherous this man was. The Ikhwan were like basically going out and making takfir and slaughtering the masses and taking territory based on the fact that they believed they were murtadun, because they worshipped other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were Sufi ghalis, etc. And you'll see that in Durar al-Saniyah, which I'll present later, just coinciding with one neo-Najdi who tries to refute the Takfiris and other groups, but not knowing it's your forefathers that you're refuting indirectly, but you don't even know. That's how stupid and gullible you people are. But don't worry, I'll save that till later. So what the Ikhwan are saying, which I understand their logic, if we're going out and conquering the Arabian tribes or the provinces in Jaziratul Arab and saying they're murtadun and kuffar, etc. But why not Iraq? And again, the Itna Ashari, they were accused them of being kuffar as well. Meaning, Ibn Taymiyyah had a different view, we'll get to that later, meaning general takfir am, or takfir wasf. So, Abdul Aziz was like, hold on here, what the hell? Like, I'm following my orders to just consolidate this territory, but these fighters of mine, obviously by the same, logic I'm employing to get them to conquer Jaziratul Arab, they want to go to Iraq, they want to go to Syria, and the Sykes-Picot agreement, they had that mandate. So it goes against Britain's interest. Do you understand? So Abdul Aziz was caught between a rock and a hard place. Now let's carry on. This is page 43 now. Okay, right here. Right the other side now. But is it zooming in? Here you go. Right there, okay? Right there. I ain't got the PDFs for this, unfortunately. I had to buy the books. I've had this for like many months. He says, at the end of 1924, the Ikhwan launched a particularly savage raid against Iraq, which Glubb had vividly described. Glubb wrote this book here, War in the Desert. Okay, War in the Desert. Here you go, War in the Desert. You must think these books are old. How'd you get hold of him? So Glubb was a let me just get into here. Glubb was a lieutenant general, okay, in the British Army when the Brits were in the Arabian Peninsula, more notably Kuwait and Egypt. But he was basically part of that campaign. Okay, so Glubb described this, and we're going to go into Glubb's account because Glubb was actually there. Okay, so we'll get to that. Eyewitness account. Okay, primary source. You love using Western academics, don't you? So today we've used your own primary source, and now we're going to back it up. So it says, in spite of definite prohibitions from Abdulaziz. So Abdulaziz was saying, don't do this and don't do that because of his interests and his conflict of interest with the Brits, who was well aware of the damage this might do to his relations with Britain. You see, the raids continued into 1925 and 1927. In response, the Iraqi authorities and the RAF proposed the construction of a series of fortifications in Busayya, we're going to get to Busayya, and Sulman, which would be able to provide advance warning of raids and facilitate early punitive action. However, in 1927, or November 1927, while the Busayya fort was actually being constructed, an Ikhwan raiding party under the notorious Faisal Dawaish, we'll get to Faisal Dawaish and his tribe, don't worry about it, attacked the fort and killed all the building workers on the site, as well as the detachment of police. Even at this stage, well before the Ikhwan revolt, it was clear that Abdulaziz could not control his own men. Here you go. There you go. I'll just get up now and just show you it. Here you go. I've just read that. Okay, so you could read that, and I've read that. There you go. So whoever's interested, I can't put it in. I've got a letter as well, funny enough, in the war in the desert. It's a letter gifted by someone, okay, in 1962. Here's a letter here. It's dated, yeah, there you go, 20th of December 1960. It's a gift from the letter. Here you go, look. It's dated 1960, as you can see. So I've got the original book, the old book, going back many years ago. But this is what this Najdi has been duped, right? Now, to add further confirmation regarding, and we're going to get to what they did in Busayya. It's all in the eyewitness account in the War in the Desert by John Bagot Glubb. Okay, so we're going to get into this as well. So now we're going to also present other academics. So in my hand, I've got a history of Saudi Arabia written by Madawi al-Rashid. Madawi al-Rashid, she is a lecturer in social anthropology at King's College, University of London. So we're talking academics here, okay? So if we go into her book, okay, page 61, okay, 59 and 61, but if you go to 61, subhanallah al-azim, there's more here, okay? There's more here. So in page 59, she starts by speaking about the Al-Ikhwan. Here you go, just in case you're wondering. Page 59, she starts mentioning about the Ikhwan. And then in page 61, it goes into much detail, but we'll deal with that in part 6 because it's got relevance to a video that I'm going to record later. It mentions their worst atrocities were committed in Hassa against the Shia population in 1913. So what did they do in Karbala? What did they do in Basra? What did they do all over the place in Tai'F? Slaughtering the masses. Now, as I said, we have theological differences. I keep mentioning it, but no way in Islam does it say you go around and start pillaging and killing and massacring them and taking their property and looting them. And Ibn Taymiyyah had a totally different viewpoint. Whilst he disagreed with them, no doubt, he didn't say that he approved of their beliefs. So she mentioned their worst atrocities were committed in Hassa against the Shia population in 1913. We'll deal with that later. We'll show about the indiscriminate attacks against the Shia. That's going to be in part 7. So we'll deal with that. And then he mentions, and the Hijazi resort of Tai'F in 1924. The Ikhwan carried out public prosecutions and looted and plundered the towns and the inhabitants. They become known in Arabia as Jund Tawheed. Jund at Tawheed. Again, like they've got a monopoly over Tawheed. So there you go. We got Madawi al-Rashid in her book, A History of Saudi Arabia. There's more. Okay, there's definitely more, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be going into it in too much depth. We're going to go into this later. There's so much to discuss. Now, there's another book as well to back this up even further. We've got The Kingdom, okay, Robert Lacey, okay, and this was written many years ago. If I go into it, 1981. So Robert Lacey wrote this in 1981. Tim Niblock wrote in 1982. Madawi al-Rashid, this is pretty modern, but we're going to go into War in the Desert, which was a primary source because he was actually there. Now, if you go to, okay, it's many pages. So under the chapter, okay, under the chapter of Tai'F, okay, you go to Tai'F, and this is so many different pages. I've got it here. There you go. Tai'F is 23. So if you want to read about Tai'F, here you go. There you go, there, right there. Tai'F, 23. If you want to read it, it's there. Robert Lacey, The Kingdom, and there's other things we need to do as well. Don't worry, we've got everything coming for you. So he mentions, and we were talking about the Ikhwan, okay, the ISIS of the time. But certainly the townspeople were not considered any forcible resistance when the brethren take over, meaning the Ikhwan, suddenly turned into a dreadful massacre. Okay, so what do we see today in Daesh? Is there any surprise? Where's the root? Where's the source? Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. Okay, this Najdi sort of extremism and radicalism. But these plastic Najdis, want to ignore that, do they? Mate, we're putting the pressure on you, ain't we? After Ramadan, look at the evidence we're showing. Afterwards, it was said that the Saudis had been fired on from a police post. Now, this is what it was said. But whatever the provocation, real or supposed, the slaughter was merciless. The slaughter was what? Merciless. The town's Qadi and Sheikhs retreated to a mosque. Which mosque was that? Masjid Ibn Abbas. Okay? Masjid Ibn Abbas, one of the famous mosques there. To be dragged out and cut to pieces. Houses were destroyed, shops and market stalls looted, throats were cut, and bodies were flung down the open walls of the town in a rampage that left more than 300 dead in a matter of hours. Think I'm joking? Here you go. There it is. I'll leave it there for like 10 seconds so you can read it. The Kingdom by Robert Lacey. A History of Saudi Arabia by Madawi al-Rashid, a senior lecturer at King's College in the social anthropology department. We've got Tim Nimlock, okay? Tim Nimlock, Centre of Arab Gulf Studies, University of Exeter, confirming the massacre of Tai'F, and we showed you the video, obviously confirming what they did. And also we presented it from the primary source, Khamsun Aman fi Jazirat al-Arab by the Saudi ambassador Hafidh Wahab. Okay, Hafidh Wahab. Now, what we're going to do is show you the main two leaders of Al-Ikhwan. Okay, before I get into the war in the desert and another piece of information. Sorry, it's going to be a lengthy video, I apologize. And as I said before, there's a neo-Najdi that we need to educate, who, feels, I've got my pink bottle, which want to ignore this aspect of history, want to do an autopsy of other dynasties who, again, we're going to show this. There's another video which I got to do, as you can see on screen, romanticize Najdiya. They want to do autopsies of the Ottoman Empire, which you got right, they're not perfect. And as I said, they can be, their history can be reviewed and can be critiqued. But conveniently, this is all ignored, right? Right? So this individual, as you can see on screen, his name is Faisal bin Sultan al-Duwaish al-Mutayri, okay? Al-Mutayri, from the Mutayr tribe. And he was the one, basically, that helped Abdul Aziz unify what they called Saudi Arabia today. He was a Takfeeri bandit. He was slaughtering mass people. And another person as well. So he's from the Mutayr tribe, okay? From the Mutayr tribe. And the other individual who assisted Abdul Aziz was this man here, Sultan bin Bajid bin Humayd al-Utaybi, and he's from the Utaybi tribe. So bear that in mind. Keep that name in your head. Utaybi, the Utaybi tribe. And this Utaybi, it will correlate with part 6. Part 6 will educate you as well, which will connect to part 5. So these were the two heads, okay, of the Al-Ikhwan movement. Okay, they were the heads of the Al-Ikhwan movement. Now what I'm going to show you, okay, is the massacre that ensued or took place in Tai'F in 1924. Did it happen in the time of the early Da'wah to Najdiya? Because that's what I'm trying to prove, ain't I? I'm trying to say, well, hold on here. Al-Ikhwan, ISIS, goes back to Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab and his bandits. Fair comment, right? But it's time for me to prove that. You know, al-bayyinatu ala mudda'i. The proof is on the claimant, so it's on me to prove that now. I'm going to show you. They pillaged all of the Arabian tribes. So I don't want to need to go into specific, locations, like Al-Huraymila, Al-Ahsa, etc. What they've done in the past, Syria, Iraq, and etc. I'm going to show you now exactly what they did in Tai'F in 1924. They did before, in the time of the early Da'wat al-Najdiyya, the bandits of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. As you can see on screen, we've got the book Unwan al-Majd fi Tarikh al-Najd. Okay, Unwan al-Majd by Ibn Bishr, Sheikh Uthman bin Abdullah Ibn Bishr. Now this is during the reign of Abdul Aziz ibn Muhammad bin Saud, who was the son-in-law of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, the son of Muhammad bin Saud, and in 1217. Okay, so this happened like probably about 20 years after Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab passed away. But I'm showing you that he was taught by Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. His methodology, his principles, his qawaid, his usuls were all applied because he did it for 40 years of his life. So basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed fear into the hearts of the Sharif, Ghalib, meaning his army. So they were defeated to Mecca. And they left Tai'F. So they left Tai'F now. Tai'F has been left alone. So they've been conquered. The bandits, the Takfeeri bandits took over. So, long story short, what happened? They didn't fight. They just went in there, obviously, because they retreated. They were defeated and they retreated to Mecca. So they killed the people. Okay, the people of Tai'F, they killed them in the marketplaces and in the houses. And they killed from amongst them 200. Now, I think there's some spelling error. It should be adada miyatain. But if we put iddat mayatain, I think there's a spelling error there. So it should be adad. So the number that they killed were 200 people. So they went in there and they killed 200 people. What did they do? So what else did they do with the rest of the provinces that they looted? Took their wealth, took their weapons, took everything that they could basically find. Okay, took everything that they could basically find. So, you see, my proof is there. I'm showing you clear facts and evidences that they were not any different to the founding fathers. So all of you, mental deranged freak, okay, Ibn Hussein, okay, you ultra Najdi, but you didn't know this, did you? Okay, so you're just a typical closet Najdi. I've got more, and like I said before, I'm talking about more respect in terms of their openness. I've got more respect for the Takfiri than you absolute muppets. Okay, more than buddy Abdurrahman Hassan and Shamsi and Dawah Man, all of these, so-called Salafi Najdis. The Takfiris are the true followers, mate. The true followers are them. You guys are phonies. You guys are fakes. You guys are frauds. The Takfiriyun, I say, you're the true followers. I'm not giving you any Blue Peter badges. I'm saying you guys are the true followers of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. These guys are phonies and you guys have been right all that time. I'm going to respond to another Ultra Najdi, new kid on the block, like they say. So let's go into the war in the desert now. Because this individual, John Bagot Gulb, was there. Okay, he was there at that particular time. Now remember when I mentioned they left their device, they wanted to build the Busayri fort. Okay, where they gone? The Busayri fort. There. In page 43, okay, here you go. He mentions that they wanted to, obviously, the RAF, the Royal Air Force, obviously, and the Globe, we're going to go into the book, mentioned that they wanted to build a fortification in Busayya and Sulman. But what happened, the Ikhwan raided it, okay, in 1927, in November. And they slaughtered all the people that were there, okay? All the people are there. And at that stage, while before the Ikhwan revolt, it was clear that Abdul Aziz could not control his own men. That's page 43. Now let's go into the book. Globe, okay? Let's see what he's got to say about it. Okay, so, Globe now, as he's mentioning here, okay, look, the letter here, the 1962 letter. There you go, there it is there. Let me get down. Okay, so Globe is mentioning that I knew little of Bedouins at that time, and still less of the Ikhwan, though I heard that they killed every male on whom they could lay hands if he was not of them. Okay, here you go. This is Globe saying it, here you go, just to put it there. There you go. I think I should do that, I should go close to it. So what happened? What did they do to the people of the Busayya fort, okay? Or Busayya. Now, this is the Busayya fort, okay? Here you go. This is the Busayya fort, okay? As you can see there. Does it say it? The fort at Busayya. There you go. Go back. This is the fort that they built. Okay, so what happened? Okay? This is a page. So if you want to go get the book, okay, do some research. 191, and it goes all the way to like 190, about 200, yeah, 206. Okay, it talks about the communication between the Iraqis and the Brits, and then Abdul Aziz. So he mentions, meanwhile, the news from Najd was not entirely reassuring. Faith al-Duwaish, as you can see on screen, Faith al-Duwaish, it appeared was already on bad terms with Ibn Saud. The tribal Utayba, or Utaybi, it says Atayba here, but it's Utaybi, under its chief Sultan ibn Humayd, claimed that it, not Ibn Saud, had conquered Tai'F and Mecca, and the tribesmen had become proportionally arrogant. The Ikhwan as a whole were greatly elated by their victory campaigns in the Hijaz and were seeking fresh fields to conquer. So, there you go. Let me put it forward for you. There you go. There you go, right there. Yeah, I should do that better. It's like a PDF scan. So yeah, there you go. So, and there's the fort. Okay, there's the fort. So what happened was that at this time in 1927, okay, in 1927, 1927. It says right there as well. 1927, right there. So, Faisal al-Duwaish, and who was the other guy? Sultan bin Bajad bin Humayd al-Utaybi. So these are the heads. Were basically fed up of Abdul Aziz now. They were fed up. They go, look, we're going to do everything ourselves. That's what they went into the Hijaz, Tunuma, when they killed the Hujjaj. So what happened? What happened? Remember what he mentioned in this book here? This book here. On the night of the 5th to the 6th November 1927, however, a party of about 50 Mutayri rushed the workmen's tents at Busayya at midnight. All the workmen and police were massacred with the exception of one policeman who survived, though left by the Ikhwan for dead. Okay, there you go. Let me just put it up. There you go. I'll just leave it there for you to read as well. If anyone's interested, go and buy this book. It tells you the reality of the Ikhwan. Okay, and you could read Khamsoon Aman fi Jazirat al-Arab. That so many details. I'm just sort of showing you the main points. Okay, show you the main points. Now, what happened at the end? It's detailed, but I'm going to do it in another video. As well, it's here anyway. So if anyone wants to, the day of Sabila. Okay, the day of Sabila. I've got it all here. So I'm going to do that in another part because it's going to get lengthy. And as I said, with history, these Najdis and these closet Takfiris ain't got a clue. They haven't got a clue. And what's happening now is we're educating them, we're slapping them across the face with backhanders and telling them that, look, enough is enough. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is the forefather of radicalism and extremism, and ISIS and their likes. Okay? ISIS and their likes are just different names. Al-Ikhwan was before. And the early bandits were before them, the early Dawah. Now we're going to educate the other ultra Najdi on the block. Okay? And to be honest, he is a bit cocky, okay, very cocky. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you, mate, you can't hide under the rock anymore. Come out and say Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is a radical and an extremist. That's it. Enough's enough. But what we're going to show you first is because you did a video against a certain group, which again, I, to a certain extent, agree with you about their ta'assub and their misapplied methodology when it comes to certain matters. And again, I don't want to get into that. But overall, the video, you mentioned some points about the Najdiya, and that's what I want to focus on. That's got nothing to do with me, so I don't need to respond to that. But let me mention some points, okay, that you need to be educated on, mate. And let's see if you're bold enough to accept what I've been saying. None of them have got the bottle to come out and say Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is the forefather of ISIS. No one. They start, oh no, they're linking Salafis to ISIS, this and that. I'm not linking Salafis to ISIS. I'm linking Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab to ISIS. You're following a plastic diluted version, and we'll get into that in part 6 to show you what it was, how it transpired, what happened in between a certain era or certain period, and then what resulted in this sort of diluted plastic rubbish version that you're following. And you're content with it? Oh my God, it's a joke. Have a listen.
Because for him, the whole world is Darul Kufr, including the Haramain, and we seek refuge in Allah from such blasphemous madness. That's the classical Takfiri cop-out.
This individual's Knowledge North, okay? Abdul Rahman, I think his name is. and he's responding to someone, which I don't want to get to. He don't show his face because at the end of the day he just wants to hide behind a screen, doesn't he? That's fine, that's up to you. So you want to talk about these big topics and don't want to show your face, and then that shows you're an utter coward, mate, with all due respect. And you want to respond to X, Y and Z and start being sarcastic and rude and obnoxious, and you want to hide behind a camera. You want to hide behind the camera and you don't want to come in front, mate. You're a coward, in my opinion. You're a coward. But anyway, that's a different story altogether. He ain't got the cojones. He hasn't got the testicular fortitude. But nevertheless, he was outraged that, about calling Mecca Darul Kufr. And he mentioned if they're coherent, etc. Let's see if you're coherent. Before you start pointing the fingers at everyone else, remember when you point one finger, three is pointing back at you, right? Let's see if you're coherent, right? You said, we seek refuge with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against such blasphemous comments. Okay, blasphemous, right? Now, let's see if you're consistent. So as you can see, we've got the book Ad-Durar al-Sunniyah. Ad-Durar al-Sunniyah knowledge note, okay? So, you were outraged, right? It was blasphemous to you that Mecca was Dar al-Kufr, according to a certain group. Now, your spiritual forefathers labeled Mecca Dar al-Kufr. And you want to see the proof? Let me show you. So it mentions Hamd bin Atiq, who was the student of the son of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. He mentions that those who discuss about the people of Mecca, whether it is Dar al-Kufr, okay, or whether it's Darul Islam. Okay, so he's basically responding to those who say, what is Mecca at the time of the Ottomans, meaning the Hijaz, the Sharif family was ruling it. Was it Darul Kufr or Darul Islam? Okay, so let's see. You were outraged, right? Let's see if you're coherent, mate. Let's see if you're coherent. So Hamd bin Atiq says, it's lengthy, and I'm getting to the answer. So that Hamd bin Atiq talks about Tawheed, that Tawheed is basically about worship, about dua, about fear, about hope, about having tawakkul, etc, etc, and you do salat, etc. So he breaks it down. The asl, which is the second asl, so the first asl is a Tawheed, and then the second asl is about obviously obeying the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. Then he carries on. Then he said, وَأَمَّا إِذَا كَانَ الشِّرْكِ فَاشِيًا. If shirk is spread or apparent, for example, making dua to the Kaaba, okay, or the maqam, the maqam of Ibrahim, or the dua to the Anbiya wa Salih, speaking, what's it called, wa anwa'ul dhulm, that types of oppression, and putting and placing the sunnah behind your back, etc. And it continues, you can read. Then, when the arrow's over, it mentions, وَصَارَ هَذَا مَعْلُومًا فِي أَيٍّ بَلَدْ كَانَ. That there is, when this is known in wherever it is. So where all of this happens, wherever it is. It's not restricting it to Mecca now. It's not restricting it to Mecca. This is what I'm saying, Takfeeri methodology of the Da'wat al-Najdiyah. There is no doubt for whoever has a little amount of ilm, adna al-ilm, small amount of knowledge, anna hadihi al-bilad, that these lands are ruled upon that they are bilad al-kufr and shirk. Okay? Especially those, okay, who have animosity towards the people of Tawheed. So you see, they believe that they manifested the deed. I'd like to ask a question to Knowledge North now. All of the issues that we see prevalent in our lands today, like dua to the Anbiya wa Salihin, etc., they are prevalent in every single land in the Muslim world today. So are all the Muslim lands now Darul Kufr? Because if you go by the Najdi principle, that's what, if they were alive today, they would treat it as Darul Kufr. Fact. Go to Pakistan, go to Egypt, go to wherever. These issues unfortunately do exist. So according to the Najdiyah, you said it's blasphemous. So according to the Najdiyah, what do they do in Mecca when they enter? They slaughter the people of Mecca. So what they do is, when they see, they make chain takfir and blanket takfir, and they kill the people, as you can see. And it carried on with the Ikhwan, who were like 150 years later. If like for a town in Pakistan, for example now, where you find in like the city of the saints, in Multan, where they're calling upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala due to their ignorance, etc. The whole town, like, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying it's prevalent. I'm not saying the vast majority, but a lot of them. Pakistan's 200 million. So I'm saying now, just imagine they send a regiment, or they write a letter, one letter, and they go, like Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, you guys are calling upon the Lord, blah, and etc, etc. And they write to them, and they don't get a response, because when Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab wrote a letter, how do you know that they were continuing committing shirk? How do you know? Like, they weren't on WhatsApp, we couldn't see it, so they had to go by hearsay. And is that enough? Or someone went there and saw it, and etc. And then they go, okay, that's now, we're going to go slaughter them now. So imagine like someone did that today, followed the principle of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, and they went and they wrote a letter to the people of Multan, or anywhere, just say, where these istighatha was prevalent, etc., with the maqabir, etc. And they go, okay, you guys are committing shirk, and they didn't stop. So according to Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab and the early Da'wah to their principle is that they could slaughter them indiscriminately, and their wealth is halal. They've been doing it for 70 years in the early Da'wah to Najdi, and they did it during Abdul Aziz when he was pillaging the Arabian tribes as well, meaning the Ikhwan. So why doesn't it stand today? I don't care about Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, he has to follow it exactly to a T. No. Who said Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab the benchmark and his early Da'wah to Najdi is the benchmark? So if that's the case, why wouldn't it be a continuation? Why wouldn't this be acceptable according to the principles of Da'wah to Najdi? You should accept that, shouldn't you? Okay, you would say, yeah, that would be Bilad al-Kufr, and that means their blood is halal. So Mecca was Dar al-Kufr according to the early Da'wah to Najdi. So you can ignore that, right? You can ignore that, right? Why is it that you don't refute the early Da'wah to Najdi? So you see, as I said before, the Da'wah to Najdi are responsible for this Takfiri phenomenon, and Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is the head of it. Part 5 is done. The amount of evidences that we provide is astronomical. No one can say that I have hid any information. I've shown you so much details, and now's the time we want you to own up. How much evidences do I need to present? But I've got more. This is just, after Ramadan, I'm just easing in gently, and this is heavy. Imagine what else I've got. So, mental deranged freak, Ibn Hussein. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is the forefather of ISIS, which is another name really, but he's the forefather of extremism and radicalism. Knowledge North. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab is the forefather of radical and extremism, and he's the forefather of ISIS. ISIS is another name really. It's another name of other names that will come in the future as well, due to this Najdi madness, this Najdi, issue, this Takfiri connection to the Najdi Dawah, because that's where the modern extremism and radicalism started from. So all of you, Abdul Rahman Hassan, Shamsi, Dawah man, you want to refute ISIS, you want to refute them, you want to leave Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab alone, and you want to leave the early Da'wah to Najdi alone, the Tai'F massacre, what we've shown you, how much evidence is we provided. But no. When it comes to other issues like the Holy Grail of Khuruj, no problem, they'll respond to that. But Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, they'll conveniently ignore it, because they know, Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab and his likes are the forefathers of radicalism and extremism. But hide away, cower away, no problem. I don't expect nothing less from you. So part 6 will come out soon. Takfiri tendencies part 4 will come out. Romanticized Najdi will come out. Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab, radicalism, radical and extremist will come. Mate, I've got so many videos to do. Wait for it. And who are the true followers of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab? Part 7. So this is why I'm touching on this topic now, because it's your cognitive dissonance. It's going to be clear for everyone to see. Refute the Takfiris, but idolize Muhammad bin Abdul Wahab. Don't know how that works. So take care of yourselves. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad.
ليس الغريب غريب الشام واليمن، إن الغريب غريب اللحد والكفن، إن الغريب له حق لغربته على المقيمين في الأوطان والسكن، سفر بعيد وزاد لن يبلغني، وقوتي ضعفت والموت يطلبني، ما أحلم الله عني حيث أمهلني، وقد تماديت في ذنبي ويسترني، تمر ساعة